Dani Laidley has joined us in the studio ahead of the release of this amazing documentary, which I've seen most of. I reckon I missed about 20 minutes at the end. Dani, congratulations on it. It is brilliant.
Thanks for having me. How are you, Bill?
I'm good, Danny, how are you? And how do you go when you listen to even that?
A whole range of emotions. It takes you back to that time and place there where things weren't so good. But I'm also excited to, this has been 2.5 years in the making.
Yeah.
We've filmed over 350 hours, plus all the archival footage to put into a 90-minute documentary. And now we're just about ready to hand it over to the world, which is, again, exciting, but it's also a little bit scary, all in the same breath.
Because there's going to be people that love it and be positive, and there's going to be the haters, and they're out there.
Yeah, they are. There's no doubt about that. And, you tend to come across those people more on social media.
Yes.
Anyone that I meet in person is so very positive. We get a lot, particularly Don and I, when we're out and about, whether it's at the footy or the cricket or, just out socially. A lot of people will come and say, "G'day, how you going? Thanks for writing your book. We can't wait to watch the documentary. You've helped me understand my child or grandchild, auntie, uncle, mother, father, a hell of a lot differently." And so that's very, very positive for us and very reassuring.
All your mates, of which I am one, have been on this ride with you right from the start, and all we ever wanted was for you to be happy, and you are now, and that's brilliant.
Yes. It comes with another set of circumstances and issues, which we all have in our everyday life. But it's really nice now to stay connected, having reconnected with people. And as you well know, Skinny, that, I was a bit of a recluse, or, I wasn't, very sociable and didn't really like to talk a hell of a lot. And whenever, I was at a function at North Melbourne as the coach or a player, I was out of there as quick as I possibly could. I never went on footy trips or anything like that.
Didn't go on footy trips?
I went on one after we won the 96 premiership, which was just okay. But I can't think of anything worse of drinking beer with 40-odd blokes yahooing and going crazy.
I love that.
That's all Bill ever wants to.
Yeah, but it is really nice. And yeah, we are happy, and we can live in the present. And I found that really difficult over a long period of time to be able to do that. So not having a segmented life and compartmentalized life, but just living in the present and enjoy what we're doing. And it's easy to come in here this afternoon and talk about the documentary and that part of my life, and then footy or cricket or, I haven't been really able to do that my whole life, and I find it quite therapeutic.
One of the things that you're really honest about in the documentary, you're honest about everything, to be frank, but it was the battle within you when you were playing. So you had this incredibly brave and amazingly capable athlete.
Tough.
But absolutely. But then you also had this other part to you that you had to put, you felt at the time you had to put aside, and the challenge of that was really real.
Yeah, it was really tough. With gender dysphoria, and what I can now call little Danielle, walking side by side with her, there were days where she would be roaring. And it was hard to live your life and be able to stay present because you've got this pull of this gender dysphoria. And then that was difficult trying to play and then go on to coach through that period of time. And what ended up happening was there was two personalities, if you like, would manifest out of that. If you asked anyone around the AFL over 30, 35 years to describe me, one would be aloof, unsociable, quiet, introverted. And the other one, particularly when, I was perhaps coaching and a little bit when I was playing, that, was a volcano, could be very angry. And, I hated those things that were manifesting because I really knew that they weren't me. Yeah. It was just dealing with the gender dysphoria that I was going through for all those years.
Gender dysphoria, what is dysphoria? And I don't know.
So gender dysphoria is a medical condition that your gender identity of how you feel on the inside is not congruent with how you feel on the outside. So people say to me, "Oh, so when did you decide to be a woman?" No, I've actually felt that my whole life.
The whole life.
From as far back as I can remember, 5 or 6 years of age, as a transgender woman.
Yeah.
So all that's changed from my point of view is that now my outside is congruent with how I've always felt on the outside. So it's not a matter of clicking your fingers and all of a sudden wanting to change.
It's been there the whole time.
It's been there the whole time, and that's been something that I've had to deal with throughout my whole life.
You know, when we were kids, footballers especially, back in our day, same age, or same as you,
Yep.
mate, we used to dress up, didn't we? We did that. I don't know why, but we all did that. And we'd have functions, we'd all dress up and carry on. It used to happen a lot, didn't it?
Yeah, well, there was an interesting photo that Donna showed me, and I don't know where she got it from the other day, but it was a picture of North Melbourne players before I actually got to the club.
Yeah.
And it was Darren Crocker, John Longmire, and Wayne Carey.
Yes.
And they were in a players review thing, and they were all dressed up. So whenever I saw that, and I was a part of one when I was playing at West Coast, and things like that would give me really high anxiety, and I would not have a bar of it. No way, because I didn't want anyone to actually think that perhaps, that might be me as the real person, as the real me. So I was always shit scared of that, and it's the same when they talk about who's the gay footballer.
Yeah.
Whenever I heard or was in earshot of that conversation, it was always, oh my God, get me out of here! I'm running for the hills. You wait, gay footballer. You wait to hear about me.
Yeah.
So it was always interesting. But you're right. And I remember on the footy show and all the
reviews.
Yeah.
You were a good-looking Morticia.
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 Yeah, from the Adams family.
Wow.
Hey, we need to take a break with Dani Laidley. More coming up after this, but this documentary, Two Tribes, I have seen, and it is brilliant.
Triple M's Rush Hour, JB and Bill.
So we had a ripping relationship. We were mates anyway, but then when I was the president of North, Tunnel was the coach. And by the way, did the most extraordinary job because we were as broke as any club had ever been.
So how much you pay her?
We were paying 89% of the salary cap for a start. And secondly, you had one full-time assistant and two part-time assistants. This is a fact. And this is 2007 and got to a prelim final. And while we were trying to do everything we could to bring the club back to life off the field, what we were lucky was on the field, the club was unbelievably well led. So that is something that all North Melbourne people should never forget.
Yeah, and Skiddy, I'm very proud of that. My part, the part that I played in that time in our footy club, because it was difficult. There was half the club wanted to run the club down and ship us off to the Gold Coast, and the other part was saying, no, we're going to stay here. And if I spoke to this half, well, then the other half got a bit shitty and stuff like that. But we stuck together as a coaching staff and a playing group. We were very tight and well drilled. But you're right. I remember in 2007, Greg Hutchison was our part-time midfield coach. So he'd come on a Wednesday afternoon and come to game days. And basically, Adam Simpson coached our midfield. So he's the captain at this time. And to think back, to those sort of days is
for an
quite
AFL
unbelievable.
I often tell this story because we got badly beaten one day. It didn't happen often at the MCG.
Yep.
And it took me a long time to get from wherever I was down into the rooms. And I always wanted to be in the coach's room afterwards so that, obviously, I was in the media. So if I had to say anything on behalf of the club about the performance, I wanted it to marry up with what the coach had said. So we're on the same page. But when I got there, the door was shut.
Ooh.
And I thought, right, what do I do here? Now, I'll never forget it. So I thought, I have to go in. And once the door's shut, the door's shut.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like,
you can't go in when the coach is...
I opened the door very quietly, and the players are all in front of Dani, who is quite rightly very angry with the performance we just put up. You knew the door was open to the right. I'll never forget this. Paused and said, there better be a good reason why that door's open. And everyone there was complete silence in the room. And then a split second later, you turned around, saw it was me and went, all right, that's a good reason. And then kept going.
Well, it is a good reason if your boss is knocking on the door and wants to come in. But those days were great, and I'm so glad that when Skinny and the board decided to stay, that it showed good faith in what we'd been doing on the field, with a hand maybe two tied behind our back. But I also think that was a great learning curve for us because. Yes, in regard to physical resources, we did want for a few more things, but in regard to the people and the environment, and I actually changed my coaching. I remember after the first 2 years, and I sort of garnered a reputation of being good at game day and strategically and all those sort of things, but it only got us to a certain point. I think we missed out in the finals and finished ninth the first 2 years.
Yep.
And then after the end of the season, Skinny come in and we were having a bit of a chat, and he says, you got too much of this guy in you. And like I've turned around and it was a picture of a past premiership coach on the wall, and I was mortified that was the case. But he gave me this book. It was called Thriving and Surviving Gen Y, and that actually changed my whole coaching. The way I went about it, less time on tactics and training and all that sort of time, and I just built relationships with my players.
Yeah.
And invariably, yes, we added one or two players, but that was the big difference for me of just missing out in the finals to playing 3 final series in 4 years and making preliminary finals.
Which coaches do now. It's all about building being a manager and all that, isn't it? That's what it is today.
Yeah, and looking back over the last probably 10 years, and seeing Damien Hardwick go through that, and Nathan Buckley go through that, and I thought, wow, that was me.
That's you.
All those years ago, so it stood the test of time, and I think that's the way football coaching has gone, and certainly continues to go that way.
Do you still love it? How many of the games did you see over the last weekend, the 4 finals?
All of them.
You watch them all?
Yeah, I watch.
Do you make notes or anything? Or?
No. But I still tend to put the coach's hat on.
Yeah.
I watch it all. I watch the men's and the women's, and I love it. It's in my blood, and I've got a passion for it.
You did it in rehab, didn't you? Didn't you had the board out?
Yes.
In rehab down there in Geelong, had the
Telling everyone
clipboard
what to do.
Yeah, which did not surprise me at all when I saw that. One of the most amazing things, I watched the documentary on my computer, and my beautiful wife-to-be sitting next to me and listening, but she's doing her work. The bit where you told the story about the wipes with makeup in your car, and then your wife at the time, I don't think
accused.
Busting you, but saying,
accused.
What's this?
What's this? Yep.
Accused you of cheating, and you said, I actually owned up to that, which never happened, because I'd rather her think that than what was actually going on. That was an extraordinary part of the documentary.
That was the fear that I held for all of my life. Obviously, with my ex-wife at the time, and then with the football world and what I was doing, and then there's other family and friends, about that. What will they think of me? Because the person that they saw or they knew was so far removed from this person that they're seeing now, and this is for me has been a lifetime in the making.
Yep.
And now it's Danny or Danielle, or Danielle he.
Yeah.
And I can now have a bit of a chuckle about that because this has been a whole life thing for me. Whereas for people it's still new, it's a few years old. I've had a public profile or had relationships from, when Skinny and I were 10, 11, 12 years of age.
Yeah.
And it's new for them. And, I've got to show some empathy for them.
Yes.
And, we all make mistakes, and I've certainly made plenty. But, though I can tell very quickly when it comes from the heart and it's just a genuine mistake, or some people are being disrespectful.
Being smart-ass. But it is a big... And I'm one of those. I never knew you. I played against you, and you're that bloody halfback and hard as a cat's head, and, mate, you'd have a go, never knew you at all, and then it comes out, a terrible way to come out too, by the way, and you go, no, that's bullshit. That not him or her. Yeah, and mate, it was unbelievable, and you couldn't believe it, to be honest. And then when you sit down and listen to you, and I've listened to some of your teammates and Duck and things like that, and explain it all, and then for this to come out, Two Tribes, you just got to sit down and watch it, and you do. You go, shit, I couldn't believe it then, but good on you.
Well, there are some
Good on
pretty
you.
confronting things in it. How do you cope with that? Because I found them pretty hard to watch.
I suppose because I've lived it now, and we've done the filming. And look, the first time I watched it going back a few months ago, Donna and I were in tears from the first minute to the last minute when it was in its early editing phases. But now when I can sit back and I can watch it, or I can read my book, or I can talk like we are today, it's actually very therapeutic for me to be able to talk about that and live, in the present like we do. But there is some, and one of the things that we decided to do once we thought, okay, this is what we're going to do, was tell the good, the bad, and the indifferent. And I think we've managed to be able to do that because there's so many learnings, and this is not just about me. The main reason I probably did it initially was to get the truth out there in my words. Because some of the narrative around it
Yes.
when it first came
Yes.
out was horrendous
Bloody oath.
for me, but also for my friends and my family, and particularly my kids. And then also the learnings and understanding that people may have not known about what this is, or what people go through with mental health, or disease of addiction, or sexual orientation, or gender identity, or anything like that. If it helps people understand it a little bit more, because you know what, next week it could be one of their family members or friends or whoever it might be, and I think I'm hoping a lot of people will take a lot of different things out of it.
You get most emotional in the documentary when you're talking about your daughters.
Yeah.
And that was very sad for me to watch, knowing the girls.
Mm-hmm.
Has that improved? Is it going to improve?
It hasn't. I hope it does. And the work that I've done with myself, I used to really, really struggle with it on a daily basis, and I still do now. But I have the strategies to put it to one side and still be able to live in the present and work on myself to make sure when they're ready in their time, that I'm the best person that I can be.
Yeah.
I reached out to one of them and got a reply only last week, which I think
good.
is great.
Yeah.
But it's slowly, and invariably, Skinny, it's going to be in their time rather than mine.
No, you're spot on. And when I went through the separation, divorce, you swear everyone's looking at you, don't you? You walk into a coffee shop or wherever it is, you swear everyone's looking at. There might be two people looking at it, no one else give a stuff. But also, you've got to build relationships with your kids, and that's what certainly I tried to do, and that's what you're trying to do, and that's what you've got to do. Bloody oath.
I need to thank you for something. Lots, actually, over that
Yeah, for
journey. But
taking no
certainly,
money.
certainly out of this
You owe 'em money.
documentary is my brother,
Stixie.
the most emotionally closed human being either of us have ever met.
Yeah.
And he, as I've watched you emerge to where we are now, he has had a big role to play in that, and has actually been a different person to the one I knew for 50, I think 3 years prior to that.
Yep.
A person came out of him in dealing with what you were going through that I had never seen before, and we're very close, as you know.
Yeah, and and we've had the Sunday afternoon barbecues at his place, and thinks he's the best steak cook in the history of the world.
All they do is drink red wine. These folks.
But what it's done, and this is what he tells me, what it's done for him has a different understanding. And like he does now, so you've got to read this book. Now you've got to read this book. And he's wanted to know, he's been like a sponge. He's wanted to know more. He's wanted to know everything. So he can then tell people and not so much spread the word, but to guide and support anyone else through this. And I'm so grateful to Mark and Deb for the support that they've given Donna and I.
That's what footy clubs do, but they're the
Well,
best at it, footy
no
clubs.
doubt. And
wrapping their arms around.
we're going to finish on this. I know because we've chatted about this before that you were very fearful of the reaction of your former teammates, and I think I'm right in saying that you were blown away by how good 99% of them were. Would that be right?
Oh, I can say 100%. It's been like quite remarkable, and Stixie was the one that set up all the reconnections. Firstly, with the North players that I played with, and then we had a night at Blue McInnes Place with all the West Coast Eagles players that I played with, who now live in Melbourne. And then in Perth, we caught up at Simo's place with Bally and Spider and Praddy, and
Which is in the documentary.
Yep. And it's just been wonderful. And what it's done for them is actually connect the dots about me, why I was perhaps like I was, when we were playing, or when I was, as Jess Sinclair said, the Bible.
Hard to read.
But now they understand. And now they go,
We get it.
We get it now.
Danny, it's an extraordinary piece of work. It's coming up on Stan. Rabs will have all the details, but I strongly urge everyone listening to watch because it is just a brilliantly done documentary. You're a star. I couldn't be prouder of the journey you've been on and where you actually are at now, and congratulations.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.